Good morning, St. Luke's. It was great welcoming you all back from spring break a couple of weeks ago and hearing about your travel adventures, the beautiful pictures, the memories you shared from the civil rights trip to China, spring training. There were so many. It was so much fun to see those memories. I was here during spring break, but don't feel sorry for me. I find I can travel to a lot of places when I simply have unstructured time through my hobby of making cheese. I had a lot of time over break, and I made several batches: an Irish cheddar, an Indian paneer, a Dutch Gouda, a rare vintage Scottish Cheshire, and an incredible African Wagasi. Beautiful, incredible batches of cheese that had me visiting places all around the world in my mind. I started making cheese about 4 years ago. My youngest daughter had left for college, and it suddenly seemed like I had a lot of time on my hands. I'd always loved to read, to sail, to knit. I had plenty of things to pursue, but none that I felt really challenged me. It all started one day when I found a recipe for homemade yogurt, something really simple, almost too easy. You heat the milk, let it cool, add something called a live culture, microorganisms found in yogurt that you eat from the store. You let it sit overnight, drain, and voila, beautiful, creamy, homemade yogurt. And when I say delicious, honestly, you will never eat store-bought yogurt again once you've tasted homemade. From there, I got curious and began to try some other simple recipes: a ricotta, a mozzarella. These were all gateway cheeses to something much larger, much more complex: the wild, wide, and ancient world of cheese making. Dangerous. Little by little, I would try recipes I found off the internet. I signed up for a weekend-long workshop in the middle of nowhere in western Massachusetts, given by a master cheesemaker who had spent his life pursuing the perfect cheddar. And from there, I was hooked. In pursuing this hobby, I discovered an entire new world I had no idea existed, and I have met the most fascinating people. James, a NASA engineer whose passion for chemistry has helped him achieve Parmesan nirvana. Stacy and Ingrid, a couple from Minnesota who just bought a goat farm, and they're trying to produce artisan chèvre on the national level. A history professor from Bowdoin College who bonded with his local cheese purveyor in Maine over camembert and became curious to learn how to make it himself. I've even used technology to connect with a 90-year-old retiree who lives alone on a tiny island off the coast of Canada. We exchange pictures of our pets, our tomato plants, and cheese recipes. And besides the interesting humans I've met, I have also met billions of others. You see, I was introduced to an enormous universe of cultures, billions of microbes, bacteria, and mold that are all around us but nearly invisible to the eye. An entire microscopic world. Bacteria. Yes, bacteria. Now, some bacteria can be harmful, but you know, we load up our hands with antibacterial soaps, disinfectants, but when it comes to cheese, that's not the case. And this is where we owe a debt of gratitude to our ancestors. From trial and error, they sorted out the good from the bad bacteria and have passed these little creatures down for literally thousands of years. The billions of tiny bacteria that I use to make my cheese may very well have descended from the ones that used by your ancient ancestors. Nowadays, very finely controlled cultures and molds are grown in labs around the world for very specific outcomes, which one selects depending upon the type of cheese you're hoping to make. Do you want holes like ones in Swiss cheese? Well, that would be Propionic Shermani. A cheese that gets some lovely blue lines through it? Be sure to pick up some Penicillin Roqueforti. How about a good, hearty Italian Pecorino Romano? You'll need some Streptococcus thermophilus. And then, if you really want to get the party started, throw in a few of these crazy kids together. Those ladylike Flora Danica that make an exquisite brie will get downright wild when they're put into a saucepan party with the bad boys of culture, otherwise known as Streptococcus lactis. You'll end up with a crazy, passion-filled blue vein cheese and wondered what the heck just happened. And those handsome, brooding, aloof, hard-to-get heartthrobs, known as Helveticus, well, they become absolute putty when a cute little Ballina abiasa gets mixed in. Lots and lots of personalities all interacting with each other for some really interesting outcomes. And in this way, I find cheese making to be a lot like leading a school. The boys' locker room, breviarium, sloppy, smelly, but often with charming results. And you overachieving AP taking honor roll straight A's, well, you're nothing more than thermophilic. You thrive under heat and pressure, while you others, sneaking in a few rounds of Fortnite instead of finishing that history paper, mesophilic. A lot of fun, can't take a lot of heat. You can be incredibly frustrating to us as parents, but you're absolutely delightful when spread over a good baguette. You are all beautiful on your own, but really, really interesting when you interact with one another. And speaking of culture, don't even get me started on the cows. I've come to discover that if ever a sequel to Mean Girls was contemplated, it could be based on a herd of cows. They fight, they bicker, they can even bully. And all of this will have an immediate effect on the taste of the milk they produce. Did you know that cows grazing along the seacoast will produce cheese that tastes saltier than those inland? And that milk gathered in the spring can taste very different than milk gathered in the fall based upon the plants that the cows are eating. And scientists have just discovered that cheese, aged while exposed to music, can affect the way it ultimately tastes. Apparently, bacteria that listen to hip-hop create a stronger flavor than those that listen to Mozart. It's incredible. There is so much to learn in this world. The big challenge is that I never know exactly how my cheese is going to turn out. When I apply the layer of wax or wrap the wheel in an oiled cheesecloth and put it away in my cheese cave, I pray that what I've done, that all my effort and care for those microbes, that mold, will have meant something and result in a beautiful creation when the right time comes. Sometimes I'm rewarded. I pull a wheel out a year or so later and break into a piece of buttery heaven. Other times there's the awful, bitter taste of tears and pure disappointment. Was all that time and work I put into it wasted? Certainly not. If nothing else, cheese making has taught me humility. An entire world of organisms, invisible to the eye, has taught me about pressure, heat, conflict, and getting along. Now, at this point, I know you're thinking she's lost it. Just stick with me a little bit more here. I want to ask you a question, all of you a question. What's your cheese? Not what's your favorite or which do you prefer. I'm asking you, what is your cheese? What world can you get lost in just for fun? What world has led you to friendships with the most unusual and unexpected, and learning that provides both joy and delight? When you get lost in your mind in that world, where are you, and do you enjoy the conversations you're having with yourself? What's your cheese? I know you've heard this from your parents, from us, from society. You need to find a passion. You've got to have something other than academics on your college application. Heck, I had no idea and just found out recently when you can buy these passions for applications. You can pay for a place on the crew team when you've never even rowed. So convenient. You can Photoshop your face onto a pole vaulter for that spot on a coveted college's track team. Who'd have thought? Incredibly convenient. I'm here to tell you to stop. Stop looking for something for the sake of a payback. What do I mean by this? It seems to me like everything is transactional these days. If I'm the captain of the team, if I lead that club, it's going to be what gets me into college. I studied for hours. I should get an A. If I'm friends with this person, it'll get me into that popular group. Maybe, but maybe not. My point is, let your heart be what leads you. Try something just for the sake of trying it. Get to know someone just because you think they're interesting. Study, really study something because it sparks something in you, not because all these things will get you something. Make your choices ones that challenge you, that frustrate, even infuriate you, but then also make you learn and laugh. You see, real personal growth, meaningful growth, happens at the end of your comfort zone, not when you're in it. Try something that you can utterly lose yourself in while simultaneously finding yourself. It might be a sport. It might be rock collecting. It might even be cheese. Don't worry about what it looks like to others. It's not theirs. Find your cheese. You know, I'm grateful that bacteria has taught me that I'm not all that. That no matter how hard I try, how hard I practice, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and that's okay. It wasn't time wasted. Humility and bacteria have been incredible teachers to me. Seniors, you'll be heading off very soon. I know you're already thinking about your majors, humanities, engineering, math, all pursuits that will build your resume for what's next. But please, please promise me, don't forget to major in yourself. Find out who you are, find out what awakens you and what feeds your soul. Make sure your days reflect the things that you actually care about. Make a point of becoming a fascinating human being that other people want to be near. And for the rest of you, in your time left here at St. Luke's, stop and look around a little. Read, listen, really talk to one another and to your teachers about what interests you and what you'd like to learn more about. You never know what worlds may open up that will lead to adventures, really, really interesting people and creatures you never even know existed. Next week, my role as acting head of school will come to an end when Mr. Davis returns on Monday. I've really loved getting to know you, and I hope you've enjoyed doing the same. Thanks for the time we've shared. I've talked to many of you about a lot of things, not only my hobbies, but about your interests as well. And luckily, I'm not going anywhere. I'll still be here in the halls, strolling through the cafe, maniacally greeting you out in the morning in front of the building. So stop me, let me know. Let me know what cheese you're exploring. I'd really love to help you find one. Thanks.